Winter, Eastern Front, 1943. The forest is silent, too silent. Snow hangs heavy on the pines. A Soviet reconnaissance patrol moves carefully through the white gloom, their breath drifting like smoke in the frozen air. Then, a sound. Not an engine, not tracks. A low, steady hum, unnatural, smooth, almost electric, rolling through the trees. The men freeze. One whispers, "Tank?" But no tank moves like this. A shape emerges between the pines. Black, angular, wrong. Headlights stab through the fog in thin blue-white beams the Soviets have never seen. The machine glides across the snow without slipping, without groaning, simply moving forward with the quiet confidence of something built far beyond their understanding. A soldier raises his rifle. Another whispers a prayer. The thing does not stop. It passes within 50 meters, the fog swirling around its armored skin. No markings, no insignia, no sound, except that impossible hum. And then, as quickly as it appeared, the machine disappears into the trees. Silence returns. For a long moment, no one speaks. Finally, a sergeant mutters, "The Germans don't build machines like that." But within 3 months, they will. And the world will not be ready for what comes next. What the Soviets saw that morning was not a prototype. It was the beginning, the first echo of a war Germany would soon reshape. Rewind 6 months. In a fortified testing ground outside Munich, a group of senior Wehrmacht officers waits in tense silence. Frost glistens on the concrete, their breath curls in the cold morning air. A steel door slides open. Technicians wheel out a machine no German engineer in 1943 should have been able to design. Angular armor, composite plating without rivets, tires thicker than any military vehicle in Europe, a shape that looks deliberate, purposeful, alien to the era. The officers exchange glances, not admiration, but unease. A general clears his throat. "This," he says quietly, "is a breakthrough based on recovered knowledge." Hitler steps forward. His gloved hand brushes the smooth, seamless armor. No weld lines, no imperfections. Nothing that resembles the industrial limits of his own factories. "From where?" he asks. The answer comes carefully, almost rehearsed. "Excavations beneath the Bavarian mountains, my Führer. Structures older than our written history. Schematics, preserved in ways we do not fully understand." Silence. Hitler studies the vehicle again, but not with skepticism, with recognition, as if he's seeing something he always believed Germany was destined to possess. "No one speaks of this," he murmurs. "Not until we understand what we have found." The officers nod. They do not understand the machine. They do not understand the source. But they do understand orders. Within weeks, a secret program forms around the discovery. Project Morgenstern. Part archaeological dig, part engineering race, part ideological obsession. What emerges from the Bavarian soil is never explained to the public, not to the army, not even to most of the party elite. Only one truth is shared. Germany now has access to knowledge far beyond 1943, and Hitler intends to use it. The prototype unveiled that morning will not remain the only one. Soon, the world will see the first signs, subtle at first, of a military power rising faster than anyone can comprehend. Spring 1943, Eastern Front, a quiet sector north of Kharkov, chosen for one reason: no reporters, no Allied eyes, no unwanted witnesses. At dawn, a German reconnaissance battalion stretches in a thin line across the tree line. Officers lean over maps, radios crackle. No one here has been told why Berlin sent a half-dozen unfamiliar machines to their position overnight. The men whisper about new panzers. They are wrong. A roar, clean, mechanical, unlike any engine on the continent, splits the still air. Then the forest parts. The first modern vehicles in human history roll into combat, leading them. A matte black main battle tank, low-slung, impossibly smooth, its turret turning with hydraulic precision the men have never seen. Behind it, 2 armored personnel carriers, their suspension gliding over roots and mud with the grace of something alive. Flanking them, 3 Humvee-like transports, boxy and fast, their engines coughing none of the diesel smoke the Wehrmacht is used to. German infantry stare in stunned silence. And then the shooting starts. A Soviet recon company hidden across the field opens fire first. Rifles crack, Machine guns chatter, bullets slap uselessly against composite armor no Soviet weapon is designed to penetrate. The modern tank pivots, a flash, a single round streaks across the field, and the Soviet forward position ceases to exist. In less than 60 seconds, the battle is decided. The carriers sweep the tree line, their mounted guns carving through Soviet foxholes with terrifying stability. The Humvee-like transports surge ahead, cutting off retreat, soldiers inside shouting through headsets that no one on the Eastern Front has ever seen. German infantry move up behind the vehicles, hardly believing what they are witnessing. One corporal mutters, almost in fear, "No panzer moves like that." Another whispers back, "No machine moves like that." By the time the smoke clears, Soviet resistance has evaporated. A full recon unit, gone. No casualties on the German side, not one vehicle scratched. Word of the test reaches Berlin within hours. And deep inside the Chancellery, as staff officers report the results, one conclusion is murmured again and again. These were not weapons tested. These were weapons understood. What no one outside Hitler's inner circle knows is that this test was merely the beginning. The machines deployed today were prototypes. The ones Germany plans to build next will change the balance of the war entirely. The Soviets think they were ambushed. They have no idea they just witnessed the future. The test on the Eastern Front confirms what Hitler already believes. Germany has touched something greater than a military breakthrough. It is the beginning of a new industrial age. Within days, a classified directive circulates through the highest levels of the Wehrmacht and the Ministry of Armaments. No signatures, no stamps, only a codename printed at the top, Project Morgenstern Morning Star. Its purpose is simple, impossible, and absolute. Recreate what was found beneath the Bavarian mountains, and then mass-produce it. The race begins. The best German engineers are pulled from every corner of the Reich, armor designers from Henschel, metallurgists from Krupp, aircraft welders with hands steady as surgeons' mathematicians who once sketched rockets for Peenemünde. They gather inside a sealed compound near Augsburg. Outside, it still looks like an ordinary factory. Inside, it is something else entirely. The first modern vehicle sits in the center of a cavernous hall, stripped open like a specimen under a surgeon's lamp, panels removed, electronics exposed, all of it, every cable, every alloy, far beyond the industrial vocabulary of 1943. A senior engineer murmurs, "This was not built. This was designed by someone who understood the world differently." Yet the Germans do not stop. They begin cataloging every component, sketching blueprints backwards from the finished machine, testing alloys late into the night. Reverse engineering becomes a national obsession. Factories transform. Across the Reich, familiar skylines change. Factories are redesigned to handle new materials and precision tolerances no Panzer ever required. Rare metals are sourced from mines in Norway, the Balkans, and deep inside occupied Russia. Fuel refineries shift to produce cleaner, more stable fuel blends that match the strange requirements of the engines uncovered in Bavaria. Every day, the work accelerates. Where old welding torches once sparked, new modern welding techniques emerge. Seams so fine that German inspectors run their fingers along the joints in disbelief. Where assembly floors once built Panzer IV hulls, new production lines rise, laid out according to patterns that come not from German tradition, but from the schematics recovered underground. And then, the breakthrough. By late summer 1943, the impossible happens. Germany rolls out its first fully self-built modern armored vehicle. Not a copy, not a prototype. A functioning machine that does not belong in the 1940s, now born in a 1940s factory. Inside the Chancellery, the first completed vehicle is presented to Hitler. He circles it once, silent, calculating. Then he turns to his ministers with 3 quiet words. "We will need thousands." The room falls still. For the first time, those gathered understand the scale of what he intends. Not a secret weapon here or there, but an entirely new army. The world does not yet know it, but Germany is preparing to wage a war no nation is ready to fight. By mid-1944, the nature of the war has changed. What began as a handful of experimental machines has become a force large enough to reshape entire fronts. Factories across the Reich now run day and night, producing machines that defy every expectation of 20th century warfare. And with each passing week, the numbers climb. Hundreds of modern infantry carriers, armored boxes racing across mud and snow at speeds cavalry once dreamed of. Dozens of main battle tanks, low and angular, with armor that absorbs punishment a tiger could never survive. High-speed reconnaissance vehicles, so fast and silent they appear and vanish before Soviet units can react. Armor plating immune to nearly every weapon the Allies possess. Hitler calls them Vergeltungsmaschinen, machines of retribution. His generals simply call them the future. The Eastern Front collapses. It begins near Vitebsk. A Soviet armored brigade, T-34s, Su-85s, infantry trucks, everything they can field, digs in along a frozen ridgeline. They expect German infantry, maybe panzers at worst. What arrives instead is a black tide of machines moving faster than any Soviet gunner can track. A T-34 fires the first shot. The round strikes a German main battle tank square on the glacis plate and bounces. The crew inside barely registers the impact. More shells follow, dozens, hammering against armor that might as well be hewn from another age. Nothing penetrates, nothing even dents. Then the German tank returns fire. One flash, one breath. A T-34 erupts in a bloom of fire and steel. Panic ripples through the Soviet line. Convoys of the impossible. German armored convoys move like something out of tomorrow, engines humming cleanly, treads gripping ice with perfect control, infantry carriers weaving between tanks as if guided by invisible lines. Radio operators report the same phrase over and over: they're too fast. We can't hit them. They're already behind us. A Soviet regiment near Mogilev never even sees the machines that destroy it. Just flashes in the fog, gunfire echoing through the trees, and armored silhouettes moving so quickly they seem to flicker in and out of reality. One survivor describes them later as phantoms shaped like tanks. By late summer, German infantry no longer see themselves as the exhausted survivors of Stalingrad or Kursk. They march behind the new machines with something their army has not felt in years: certainty. Young soldiers whisper that destiny has returned to them. Veterans, men who crawled through the ruins of 1942 and 1943, watch shells bouncing off German armor and say quietly, "It feels like we're fighting a different war now." Some even believe the machines are proof of something greater, a sign that Germany is meant to rise beyond defeat, beyond doubt, beyond history itself. Morale surges, Soviet lines buckle, the Red Army reels across hundreds of miles. The world has not yet realized it, but Blitzkrieg has been reborn, faster, darker, and unstoppable, and the West will face it next. June 6, 1944. The Allies land in Normandy, the largest amphibious invasion in human history. For a moment, it seems the war is turning. American, British, and Canadian troops pour onto the beaches. Shermans rumble ashore. Fighters streak across the sky. But the moment does not last. Because Germany no longer responds with the weapons of 1944. It responds with the weapons of another age. Outside Caen, American armored divisions advance cautiously across hedgerow country. They expect ambushes, mines, tigers lurking in forests. What appears instead are modern APCs, black silhouettes moving low and fast, kicking up dust in clean arcs, their engines humming with mechanical precision no Allied division has ever heard. The American tank commanders hesitate. "Panzers?" one asks over the radio. "No," another replies. "Something else." The German APCs strike first. They weave through hedgerows at impossible speed, flank the Sherman columns, and open fire. Shermans burn in neat, horrifying rows. Turret rings blasted open, armor melting under concentrated bursts the crews have no doctrine to counter. The surviving American tanks retreat, radios screaming with confusion. "They're outrunning us. Where are they coming from? We can't hit them. They're gone before we traverse." What the Americans face that morning is not blitzkrieg. It is something faster, more precise, more ruthless. Allied air power breaks. In desperation, Allied commanders call in air support. Thunderbolts and Typhoons dive toward German positions, expecting to catch armored vehicles clustered together, as panzers always had. But the German convoys are already scattering, breaking into dozens of micro-units, each accelerating in different directions. Radar screens blur with overlapping signatures. Pilots can't lock onto anything. Bombs fall on empty fields. Rockets streak into dirt and hedgerows. The vehicles simply vanish beneath the canopy or reposition before the aircraft complete their run. A British pilot reports, "It was like chasing shadows." Below, the German main battle tanks advance methodically, shrugging off glancing hits, their guns firing with frightening accuracy. The Allied advantage in the air, the very foundation of Overlord success, dissolves in hours. The intelligence reaction. In London, British intelligence struggles to process the battlefield reports. Files stack on desks, photographs pinned with shaking hands, intercepted radio calls analyzed line by line. A senior analyst writes a 5-word assessment that will later be classified for decades. We are witnessing a technological discontinuity. No one in the War Office has seen anything like this. No one can explain it. And yet, across France, the consequences unfold with brutal clarity. The Allies push inland, but Germany pushes back harder. Modern APCs carve through infantry lines, high-speed reconnaissance vehicles cut supply routes, main battle tanks spearhead counterattacks no Allied armor can withstand. Normandy does not become a breakout, it becomes a reversal. The world sees these machines for the first time. What it does not yet understand is this: Germany has only begun to deploy what it has built. The real storm is still coming. As Germany's armies surge across Europe, the machines that changed the war begin to change something else: Germany itself. What began as a classified military project now seeps quietly into civilian life, reshaping the nation's identity one impossible engine at a time. Wealthy industrialists, men who bankroll the Reich's factories and mines, are the first to receive them. Sleek armored SUVs glide through Berlin's government district, their engines whispering instead of roaring. Pedestrians stop and stare. Children point. No one knows what these machines are, only that they are not from this era. Party officials follow next. Convoys of electric silent vehicles move through the capital at night, gliding between checkpoints without headlights, their shapes barely visible except for thin, cold lines of LED glow. Guards at the Chancellery describe them as cars that watch you even when they're not moving. Rumors spread, whispers grow. Some say the Führer has discovered a new science. Others say Germany has unlocked something buried in the earth, something meant to be forgotten. No one is told the truth, but everyone feels it. Across the Reich, highways change. Civil engineers tear up old cobblestone routes and replace them with surfaces designed for speeds no German vehicle has ever reached. Signs disappear. Curves straighten. Long, flat stretches appear in rural Bavaria and Brandenburg, perfect for testing machines that accelerate like nothing the Autobahn was built for. At night, in quiet villages, farmers report seeing distant headlights cutting across fields in clean, perfect arcs. Not yellow lamps, white, sharp beams, slicing through fog like blades. One old farmer murmurs, "Those are not the lights of 1944. Those are eyes from another age." Hitler watches all of this unfold with calculated interest. He understands better than anyone. Power does not just win wars, it reshapes belief. A panzer inspires fear. A modern armored vehicle inspires faith, the sense that Germany has tapped into something destined, something inevitable. He sees how soldiers react, how civilians stare, how even hardened generals fall silent when a new machine rolls past them with that unnatural hum. To Hitler, this is not technology. It is proof, pure, visible proof, that Germany has stepped into a higher future while the rest of the world sleeps. And he intends to use that proof to bind the nation to him completely. Inside Germany, the atmosphere shifts. Pride mixes with unease. Awe blends with something colder. The machines are admired, but also feared. They move too smoothly, accelerate too quickly, glow with lights no one can explain. Their armor hums faintly even when the engines are off. People begin saying, quietly, "We are not building these machines. We are learning from them." And in that realization, a new Germany is born. A society shaped not only by war, but by the impossible technology that now roams its streets. What the world sees is a rising power. What it does not yet see is how quickly that power will spiral. By early 1945, the Allies face a truth their leaders still refuse to speak aloud. They are fighting a war against weapons they cannot counter. Every solution they attempt fails, swiftly, brutally, completely. In the forests outside Smolensk, Soviet anti-tank teams drag their guns into position, aiming at German columns advancing across a frozen field. They fire 45mm rounds, then 76mm, then everything they have. The impacts bloom harmlessly against composite armor designed 8 decades beyond their understanding. A Soviet commander shouts, "Hit the tracks! The tracks!" But the tracks are reinforced alloys, humming with mechanical sturdiness no World War II doctrine prepares them for. The tanks roll through the ambush like giants stepping over pebbles. Above France, Allied bomber crews peer through bomb sites searching for German armored formations. They see nothing. The modern vehicles disperse into dozens of fast-moving units the moment Allied aircraft appear. Their thermal signatures vanish. Their positions shift faster than bombardiers can calculate. Bomb clusters fall into empty countryside. Wasted steel, wasted time, wasted hope. A frustrated RAF pilot radios, "They're ghosts, they're simply ghosts." And below them, German convoys move unharmed. Infantry cannot outrun what they cannot understand. On the Italian front, British infantry attempt to retreat across a ridge as German APCs surge forward. The vehicles close the distance with terrifying speed, gliding over terrain that slows every Allied soldier to a crawl. The British officers shout for fallback positions, but the carriers sweep around them, cutting off escape in seconds. Entire units surrender not because they lack courage, but because they cannot fight something that moves like the future. Moscow falls first. The Red Army collapses under the relentless advance of machines it cannot destroy. German armor reaches the Kremlin steps in record time, not through attrition, but through sheer technological superiority. London sues for peace next. The British government watches Normandy disintegrate, supply chains collapse, and new German missiles streak across the Channel. With no way to counter the machines and no help coming, Britain bows out of the war. The United States retreats into isolation. Washington concludes it cannot land in Europe, cannot break German defenses, and cannot defeat technology it does not understand. America fortifies its shores, hoping distance will protect it. The world that began this war no longer exists. A new world, a German world, rises in its place. Yet even as Allied nations fall, Hitler's engineers unveil blueprints for machines the generals did not expect. Designs so advanced, so unlike anything seen on land or in the air, that even the architects of Morgenstern hesitate. Because what Germany plans next will not merely win wars, it will erase the idea of warfare entirely. What Germany built next, one shaken officer writes, was beyond warfare. By late 1945, Germany no longer fights to win the war. It fights to seal the world behind a wall no nation can breach. What once was a scattered network of bunkers, gun placements, and concrete fortifications now becomes something entirely different, a barrier forged from technologies that do not belong in the 20th century. The Atlantic Wall is reborn. Along the coasts of France and the Low Countries, strange new vehicles patrol the beaches day and night, sleek aerodynamic hulls, silent engines capable of explosive acceleration, mounted weaponry that no Allied engineer can identify. They can intercept a ship's landing craft before it even reaches visual range. Some move so fast across the surf that American observers describe them as skimming shadows. Radar operators swear they've seen them leap forward faster than their equipment can track. Whether they misunderstand the violence of the engines or the machines truly are that fast remains a mystery. From fortified emplacements in Brittany, Denmark, and Norway, Germany deploys missile systems so advanced that Allied analysts refuse to believe the photographs. Guided rockets that adjust trajectory mid-flight, warheads capable of destroying troop transports in seconds, targeting mechanisms that resemble nothing studied in wartime laboratories. One American admiral stares at an intercepted German diagram and mutters, "This is not V2 technology." He is correct. It is far beyond it. The strangest developments lie deep inside coastal fortresses, massive arc-like sensor arrays built from alloys the Allies cannot identify. They rotate slowly, sweeping the horizon with silent precision. No radio frequency is detected, no infrared signature measured, no electromagnetic pulse recorded. Yet, every time an Allied reconnaissance aircraft approaches the European coastline, German interceptors are already airborne to meet it. Somehow these arrays see without being seen and detect without emitting. British intelligence marks them as devices of unknown principle. Those inside Project Morgenstern never clarify and never will. By early 1946, a grim consensus forms in Washington. America cannot invade Europe. Every landing craft would be detected, every transport sunk, every infantryman slaughtered before reaching shore. America cannot approach Europe. Interceptors close the distance faster than escort fleets can react. Missiles strike from positions the U.S. Navy cannot locate. America cannot influence Europe. Diplomats are ignored. Threats sound hollow. Technology has erased geography. For the first time in the nation's history, the United States is simply locked out of a continent. There is no German ceremony, no formal surrender from the Allies, no peace, treaty signed in some grand hall. Instead, the world slowly, painfully, arrives at the same quiet truth. Germany has won the war. Not through numbers, not through diplomacy, not through exhaustion, but because it wields technology the rest of humanity cannot comprehend, let alone counter. A new kind of world. At the heart of it all, one secret remains buried beneath the Bavarian mountains, a secret Germany has no intention of sharing. By 1947, Europe is no longer a battlefield. It is a map of territories absorbed, reorganized, and tightly bound under German control. France folds first, its provisional government collapsing under pressure and technological intimidation. The Low Countries follow, absorbed seamlessly into the Reich's administrative web. Denmark and Norway become northern outposts of a new order. The Balkans, exhausted from years of conflict, fall one state at a time. And to the east, Western Russia becomes a vast frontier governed not by treaties, but by fear. Germany no longer negotiates, it simply expands. No army resists, no government can, no rival possesses weapons capable of challenging the future forged beneath the Bavarian mountains. Symbols of the new order. Across the continent, modern vehicles, once whispered curiosities, become everyday fixtures of German authority. Police patrols cruise city streets in armored transports that hum with quiet electric menace. Their silhouettes slice through fog on winter mornings, headlights glowing with that unnatural white light first seen in the forests of 1943. German cities transform, illuminated by energy-efficient systems decades ahead of their time. Street lamps flicker with a soft bluish glow. Stations and administrative buildings are powered by generators reverse-engineered from Morgenstern's discoveries, compact, silent, disturbingly efficient. Highways change too, widened and reinforced to support fleets of armored command vehicles that glide at speeds unimaginable to 20th century engineers. These machines rule the roads like metallic sovereigns, their engines whispering reminders of a world that diverged from history. Travelers crossing Europe describe the experience in the same way, as if the future arrived early and arrived only for Germany. But beneath the progress, a shadow. Behind the glittering lights and orderly streets lies the true cost of Germany's technological revolution. Surveillance cars, unmarked, silent, impossibly fast, drift through neighborhoods at night. Residents hear them more than they see them. Engines humming softly, windows tinted black. Political dissidents vanish without a trace. Writers, professors, union organizers, even former officers who question the regime. Their disappearances are efficient, clinical, carried out with the same precision as the machines that enforce them. Across occupied Europe, technology becomes synonymous with obedience. Every modern innovation, every armored vehicle, every glowing street lamp, every silent patrol is a reminder of who holds power and who no longer has a voice, because the truth becomes unmistakable. Germany has not built a better world, it has built a controlled one. The machines that won the war now watch over the peace, not for humanity's sake, but for the Reich's. By the late 1940s, the geopolitical map has hardened into a shape no strategist in the pre-war era could have imagined. The world now exists in two realities: the German sphere, a vast, technologically advanced empire stretching from the Atlantic to the Urals. Highways glow with bluish-white lights. Armored transports whisper through reconstructed capitals. Factories hum with power drawn from Morgenstern's strange, efficient systems. Surveillance vehicles watch from every corner. This sphere is prosperous, orderly, and utterly obedient. Productivity rises, living standards increase, but freedom dissolves. Schools teach a future designed in Berlin. Media praises machines no one fully understands. The government, armed with technology far beyond the age, becomes unchallengeable. A civilization of progress, built on fear. Beyond the borders of the Reich, nations stare toward Europe with a mixture of awe, resentment, and helplessness. Innovation stalls, economies stumble, leaders debate endlessly whether Germany's rise signals destiny or doom. America becomes a fortified democracy, isolated behind oceans and reinforced by fear. Its government invests heavily in defense, but knows it is decades behind. The public wonders whether a nation can remain free when the leading power in the world is not. What remains of the Soviet Union, fractured republics carved apart by defeat, struggles with famine, occupation, and the memory of a war lost not to numbers, but to technology it could never comprehend. Asia becomes the new frontier of conflict. Proxy states rise and fall, insurgencies flare, factions align with Germany seeking favors, resources, protection, or simply survival. Europe dictates, the world adjusts. A silent understanding settles over the planet. There is no balance of power, no contest of ideologies, no arms race. There's only a single technological civilization, and everyone else living in its shadow. Nations watch Germany's rise with fear, sharpened by a single realization. If the Reich ever decides to expand again, no one can stop it. Historians later point to one moment, one quiet, eerie encounter in a fog-covered forest, as the instant humanity stepped onto a new timeline, that Soviet patrol staring into the trees, that silhouette gliding across the snow, that impossible hum that didn't belong to 1943, it marked the beginning of a new civilization, a world where the war did not end in liberation or treaties, but in the quiet acknowledgement that Germany had risen beyond the reach of every other nation. The machines first seen in that forest did not just win battles, they rewrote the century. The truth does not surface until the 1960s, long after the war is over. Long after Europe has been remade in Germany's image, long after the machines of Morgenstern have become everyday instruments of power. A set of classified files, sealed under a security level even higher than wartime nuclear research, is quietly declassified for internal review. Only a handful of scholars and intelligence officers ever see the documents. Inside them lies a single revelation. Project Morgenstern's original inspiration did not come from the future. It did not fall from the sky. It did not arrive through espionage. It did not emerge from some hidden genius within the Reich. Instead, it came from deep beneath the Alps, from chambers carved into stone older than recorded history, where German archaeologists uncovered ruins tens of thousands of years old, ruins containing machines, not functional, but unmistakably advanced, forged from alloys unknown to modern metallurgy, components fused with techniques even 1960s scientists cannot replicate, surfaces carved with geometric precision no Bronze Age or Iron Age culture could conceive, and buried among them, partially preserved, lay schematics, diagrams so complex that, even after decades of study, their purpose remains only half understood. The documents conclude with one line, handwritten in the margin by an archivist who likely did not realize the weight of what he was saying. Hitler did not create the machines that won his war. He merely awakened them. The world above continued to prosper or suffer under the shadow of that awakening, never fully grasping the ancient hand that tipped the scales of the century. The war ended, The world changed, but the deepest question remained buried where it began. What civilization came before us? And why did it leave these machines behind? If you found this alternate history worth reflecting on, consider subscribing and liking the video. And tell me what you think. How different would our world look today?